The raidraptor archetype, or as they're known as raidraptor in the OCG, is an archetype of dark winged beast monsters used by Shea Obsidian in the Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 anime and the manga. They made their debut in Secrets of Eternity. The design of the raidraptor monsters resemble various genus and species of birds of prey, albeit with a mechanized appearance and equipped with weaponry. Most of the level 4 monsters are based on the Lanius, a genus of passerine birds in the Shrike family, while most of the extra deck monsters are based on falcons. Additional monster support includes cards based on vultures, eagles, and strikes, a genus of earless owls. The level 3 and rank 3 monsters are based on eagles, while the members based on vultures and strixes cover a wide range of levels and ranks. This naming pattern can be likened to codenames of different members belonging to the same military unit. All raidraptor monsters display the raidraptor crest somewhere on their bodies. The crest itself is also used to represent their various rank-up magic spells. In the dub, their attack names are all alliterative. In terms of the playing style, much like other Xyz-based archetypes in the game, this deck focused on swarming at the field with necessary monsters to perform Xyz summons. Most of their monsters have effects that allow them to be summoned rapidly to the field, but the easiest method for them to do so usually involves cards from players' hands, such as Raidraptor Vanishing Lanius, and therefore they need to keep many resources in their hand to start their initial strategy. Their main Xyz monster designed for this sole purpose is Raidraptor Forstrix, and is the most important Xyz monster in the deck. It allows the player to build up early advantage by constantly searching the majority of their monsters, while also serving as the deck's first line of defense. In order to summon this card consistently and efficiently, cards like Raidraptor Tribute Lanius are generally recommended when used in conjunction with either Raidraptor Fuzzy Lanius or Raidraptor Mimicry Lanius. It essentially allows Xyz summoning with just one card. The majority of their main deck monsters usually have effects that can be activated during the main phase of the turn, then normal or special summoned, and most of them are beneficial effects that help them summoning more monsters to the field. However, some of them, for example Fuzzy Lanius or their Raidraptor Cool, restricts a player from special summoning other than Raidraptor monsters if their effect is used, so you need to be careful when planning ahead, and it's necessary to utilize those cards to their maximum potential. Besides Forstrix, they also have many other Xyz monsters within their arsenal, and some of them are specifically designed to eliminate multiple threats at once, particularly special summon monsters. The majority of them are also able to inflict points of massive damage, whether they're through their effects alone, directly or indirectly, or through attacking multiple times. This archetype also heavily supports ranked up strategy due to the high number of rank magic spell cards associated with the archetype. Some of the rank up magic cards designed exclusively for this archetype also have effects that allow them to special summon monsters from the graveyard before rank up, such as rank up magic Soul Shave Force, and some of them even have secondary in graveyard effects that helps in recovery aspects in some way or another, such as rank up magic Skip Force. As the rank magic card's usefulness depends on whatever Xyz monster the player has on the field at the time, and the fact that these cards aren't easily searchable, Raidraptor Lustrix can be utilized to provide Xyz monsters straight from the extra deck as materials for rank up if necessary. They also can recover those rank up magic cards for another use with cards like rank up magic Raid Force in its graveyard effect or Raidraptor Necrovulture. Ultimately, all of these options allows them to greatly increase their offensive power in a duel by accessing higher rank Xyz monsters with more powerful effects. With access to cards like Raidraptor Ultimate Falcon, which is their rank 10 monster, and Raidraptor Final Fortress Falcon, which is their highest rank monster, it's a rank 12. The previous monster, the Ultimate Falcon, has 3,500 attack points, and the Final Fortress Falcon has 3,800 attack points. At the top of this strategy allows them to achieve decisive victory. In terms of the weakness, the deck relies heavily on Xyz summoning, so any cards that prevent special summoning or cards that prevent them from accessing their extra deck will shut it down. Monarch and Amorphage are the deadliest in this virtue in the given examples. But you can also have decks that kind of rip apart the extra deck, being massive threats. The deck also heavily relies on rank up magic spell cards, so spell negation can greatly hamper this deck from accessing its boss monsters. Neutria Beast, Secret Village of the Spellcasters, and Imperial Order, examples of generic cards in this category. Anti-spell Fragrance can also slow down rank up magic players by forcing the opponent to set their spells before being able to use them. However, quick play rank up magic spell cards such as rank up magic Revolution Force or rank up magic Doom Double Force can still be used during your opponent's turn. The archetype lacks variety in tools for intercepting the threats due to its specific nature of using Fuzzylanius and Raidraptor Call. Much like Blackwings, this deck often relies on their initial normal summon to start their play, and it is often difficult to handle quick effects that can disrupt any of their plays, such as Zodiac Trident or Masterpiece, the True Draco Slaying King. All of them are Dark Winged Beast monsters, so they are vulnerable to certain attribute and type-based Floodgate cards, such as Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, and there can only be one. Cards that can change their attribute or type into something other than Dark Winged Beast can prevent them from link summoning Raidraptor Wisetricks, slowing them from searching rank magic spell cards. Many spell and trap cards supporting the Raidraptor archetypes, apart from the rank up magic spells, depict bird-shaped figures made of light in their artworks. In the Japanese version of Yu-Gi-Oh! Arc 5 and the dub in some cases, the Raidraptor monster's cries are the same as Earthbound Immortal Asilapiscu, which is the hummingbird Earthbound Immortal. The archetype's initial Xyz monsters Rise, Blaze, and Revolution Falcon have a unique characteristic. As they're evolved, their design appears to become more simplified and streamlined, caused by losing most of their body parts. This may be alluding to their growth as they faced harsh battles and struggles, making them stronger, reflected by their increase in ranks and their more powerful effects. And these three monsters also seem to represent the stages of a revolution, fitting Shay's background as a member of the Xyz Dimensions Resistance against Fusion Dimensions Dual Academy. Raider's Knight is a Dark Attribute Warrior type Xyz effect monster. It's a rank 4 with 2000 attack and 0 defense. It requires 2 level 4 Dark monsters to summon it, and this card is always treated as the Phantom Knight and Raidraptor card. You can detach one material from this card to special summon from your etch deck, one the Phantom Knight's Raidraptor or Xyz Dragon Xyz monster that is one rank higher or lower than this card. By using this face-up card you control it as material, but destroy it during your opponent's next end phase. This is treated as an Xyz summon, transfer its materials to the summon monster. You can only use this effect of Raider's Knight once per turn. This card is easy to help cheat out one of your Raidraptor monsters into either a rank 3 or a rank 5. Typically I will go for a rank 5 and I will go with the one that has 2000 attack and defense, and its effect is you can just attach a material, destroy one of your opponent's monsters, and then they take their opponent's monsters attack as effect damage. So that's one way of kind of boosting up the deck. It adds to the consistency, and it's a way of tying the Phantom Knights, which is used by Shay's friend and himself with his Raidraptors. Raider's Wing is a Dark Attribute Wing Beast level 4 with 0 attack and 2000 defense. This card is always treated as the Phantom's Knights and Raidraptor card. If this card is in your hand or graveyard, you can detach one material from your Dark Xyz monster, special summon this card but banish it when it leaves the field. You can only use this effect of Raider's Wing once per turn. An Xyz monster whose original attribute is Dark and has this card as material gains this effect. Your opponent cannot target this card with card effects. This card helps to generate additional benefits and bonus in protecting your monsters so long as they have this card as material. There are other cards out there that can help rank up into your higher rank monsters rather than just stick to rank 4, so you don't actually have to worry about that just applying through this effect. Those cards can also just be ranked up, and as long as this is just one of the materials attached, it still applies the effect no matter what you're kind of upgrading into. This is also able to just special summon itself by detaching a material from another Dark Xyz monster, and often more than not you'll just want to use this effect to extend your combos. Raidraptor Arsenal Falcon is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast Xyz level 7, rank 7 with 2500 attack and 2000 defense. It requires 2 level 7 monsters, and the effect is once per turn you can detach one material from this card, special summon one level 4 Winged Beast monster from your deck. If this card has any number of Raidraptor monsters as material, it can attack up to that many times during each battle phase. If this card is sent to the graveyard while it has a Raidraptor monster as material, you can special summon one Raidraptor Xyz monster from your extra deck, except Raidraptor Arsenal Falcon, and if you do, attach this card from your graveyard to it as material. The summoning condition on this card is not too difficult, whilst they don't actually have level 7 monsters for you to then rank straight into this card. The usual idea is that you get it to maybe either the rank 4, 5, or 6, and then you can use any of the rank up cards to then get into this specific monster. Once per turn, you're able to just detach a material and then special summon a level 4 winged beast monster from your deck, and this has the benefits of then helping to extend your plays, but often more than not, I actually prefer to maintain the protection of the exceeds materials, so that if and when this card does leave the field, you're able to replace it with either the Ultimate Falcon or the rank 10 or the rank 12, as this will instantly allow you to do that whilst ignoring its summoning conditions. This also gains the benefit of being able to attack multiple times in a turn, so the more materials on it you have, the more attacks it can do, and these don't have to be directly just on monsters, they can be on your opponent's life points. Raidraptor Avenged Vulture is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 4 with 1700 attack and 100 defense. If you take damage, you can special summon this card from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck for the rest of this turn, except Raidraptor monsters. The actual attack stat on this card is probably one of the more powerful ones. There's only one other one, the Tribute Lanius, which has 1,800 attack points. Most of the other ones are quite weak and are just there for the purposes of getting you into your rank Xyz monster plays. This one does have the opportunity to special summon itself whenever you take any points of damage, so that can be battle damage, it can be effect damage, and it can be either your damage or your opponent's damage. There are cards within the deck that let you kind of do your own damage to yourself, and then this card is instantly able to be special summoned. It does lock you into Raidraptor monsters for the rest of the turn in terms of your extra deck, but that's a very minor detail. You'll want to be working within the confines of the deck. Raidraptor Blade Burner Falcon is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast Xyz effect monster. It's a rank 4 with 1000 attack and 1000 defense. It requires 2 level 4 Winged Beast monsters, and if this card is Xyz summoned and your opponent's life points are at least 3000 higher than yours, you can make this card gain 3000 attack points. When this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can detach any number of materials from this card, destroy exactly that number of monsters your opponent controls. This card is pretty easy to summon, and it's one of the alternative rank 4 monsters that people tend to forget. It is always an option to go instead of Force Tricks, as even though it doesn't have this search effect, if your life points are low enough and the difference is 3000 or more, this instantly gains 3000 attack points. It becomes a 4000 attack monster, and it can pretty much get over a lot of your opponent's monsters. If you have the benefit of destroying an opponent's monster, just by detaching any number of monsters, you can then effectively get rid of another up to 2 monsters that your opponent controls without having to engage in battle just through its effect. So it helps to clear out your opponent's board. Raidraptor Blaze Falcon is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast Xyz rank 5 with 1000 attack and 2000 defense. It requires 3 level 5 Winged Beast type monsters, and this card can attack directly while it has Xyz material. When this card inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you can target one monster your opponent controls, destroy it. Once per turn, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, destroy as many special summon monsters your opponent controls as possible, and if you do, inflict 500 damage to your opponent for each monster destroyed. I'll have to admit, out of the 2 rank 5 monsters that I remember, this is the one I'm less inclined to go into because it's more specific. It requires more level 5 monsters in order to bring it out, and there are further restrictions to it as opposed to the other one that just needs 2. This card can attack directly, so that's 1000 points of guaranteed damage, whilst it has material. And when this card does that, you can instantly just target a monster your opponent controls and destroy it, which is a decent effect. Once per turn, you can just detach a material from this card and destroy as many special summon monsters your opponent controls as possible. This is beneficial because it can wipe out a few depending on how your opponent is running their deck, and they take 500 points of damage for each monster destroyed, so that's also additional burn damage. But there are times where either monsters cannot be destroyed by these types of effects, or really this is the lesser of the two options you want to look for. Raidraptor Bloom Vulture is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 4 with 300 attack and 1900 defense. If you do not control any face-up monsters other than Winged Beast monsters, you can special summon both this card and one Raidraptor monster from your hand. If you control no monsters, you can target 2 level 4 or lower Raidraptor monsters in your graveyard, including this card, special summon them in defense position. You can only use one Raidraptor Bloom Vulture effect per turn and only once that turn. Also, you cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate either of these effects, except Dark monsters. This is one of the latest forms of support that they've received in Phantom of Nightmare. It does have 1900 defense, so it is a more defensive monster, and it has barely any attack points considering it's a level 4 monster. This has the opportunity to let you go instantly into rank 4 play, as either if you've got a Winged Beast monster, you can just straight away special summon this card to the field, or if you don't have any monsters on your field and this card happens to be in the graveyard, you can revive this and another level 4 or lower Raidraptor monster and special summon them in defense position. But bear in mind, if you do choose for another level 4 monster, you can go into an instant Xyz play. This card can only use each of its effects once per turn, but I think that's fine, as you don't want it to be able to reoccur, it would be just too much. And it does lock you into Dark Attribute monsters, but that's pretty much the entirety of the Raidraptor deck. It doesn't matter that you're locked into Dark monsters, and that you're restricted to use just Dark monster type of effects. It's fine, it will work, and I'm hoping to see this within the Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duels soon, just to help upgrade my Raidraptor deck. Raidraptor Booster Strix is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 4 with 100 attack and 1700 defense. When a Raidraptor monster controller is targeted for an attack by an opponent's monster, you can banish this card from your hand, destroy the attacking monster. I love the design of this card, and it's useful as a hand trap, as if your opponent doesn't know that you've got this card in your hand and then your Raidraptor monster happens to be threatened by an attack, you can instantly destroy your opponent's monster. And since this card is banished rather than being sent to the graveyard, it cannot then be affected by Call by the Grave, which would typically then banish this card from the graveyard to negate its ability. In this case, because it's going straight to the banish pile, it can't activate that type of effect. Raidraptor Brave Strix is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast Xyz effect monster. It's a rank 5 with 2000 attack and 2500 defense. It requires 2 level 5 monsters, and a Raidraptor Xyz monster that has this card as material gains this effect. This card gains attack equal to its rank times 100. You can only use one of the following effects of Raidraptor Brave Strix per turn and only once that turn. You can detach one material from this card to set one Raidraptor Spell or Trap card from your deck. If this card has a Winged Beast monster as material, you can detach one material from this card to add one rank up magic spell from your deck to your hand. Summoning condition on this card isn't difficult, as it just requires 2 level 5 monsters. As I said to you before about the Raid Knight, that card it can instantly go into this without any requirements, any issues. You have to consider this as a better version of Force Strix, as whereas that card is limited to only searching for your Raidraptor monster cards, this has the ability to search for any of your Raidraptor Spell or Trap cards, so there is that additional flexibility, as well as having the opportunity to search for specific rank-up magic spell cards from your deck to your hand. This means if you can get both of these effects off of both types of monsters, you have the consistency that you're running for. You look for searching the monster effects with one monster, the spell and traps with this card, as well as the rank-up magic cards with this card as well. There are other cards that do have that kind of effect, such as Tribute Lannis has the ability to search for your rank up magic cards, but that only happens after it successfully destroys an opponent's monster in battle. Being dependent on anything in the battle phase, if your opponent negates the destruction or negates the attack of your Tribute Lannis, then you can no longer rely on that effect. This also mitigates a massive weakness that the Raidraptors currently have within the deck. Now, with the power creep and how that's been working within the game, you are seeing more and more monsters that are reaching above the 3000 attack point threshold with devastating effects and are much easier to just summon from the extra deck with almost no cost. In the past, Ultimate Falcon and Final Fortress Falcon were fantastic because one had 3500 attack and one had 3800 attack, and both of those cards are unaffected by card effects, but their purpose is different depending on the situation. I would say if you can finish off your opponent sooner, then the Final Fortress Falcon is the better one to go into, as it has 3800 attack points and it can attack potentially multiple times within a turn, whereas with the Ultimate Falcon it's more of a grind game. If you can if you stick this monster just continually onto the field and it stays, it's continually going to zap away your opponent's face-up monsters' attack points by 1000 each turn, as well as effectively doing 1000 points of burn damage if they don't have any monsters on the field. But none of them have any ways of increasing their attack points. This card gives both of those monsters that opportunity. If this gets applied to the Ultimate Falcon, that becomes a 4500 attack monster. Very difficult for your opponent to completely get over. With the Final Fortress Falcon, that becomes a 5000 attack monster, even more difficult to get above and to manage. Outside of things like a kaiju that contribute over those cards, it's pretty near impossible to then beat those monsters in battle. And I'd argue this is necessary at this point, considering that there is a new bestial synchro monster that has 3500 attack points. As someone who likes the raidraptor deck, I've noticed if I go into Ultimate Falcon and I'm against a branded deck, there is more likelihood than not that they're just going to crash with that monster into my Ultimate Falcon, and then I will lose from there. Whereas if I actually go into the Final Fortress Falcon, sometimes it can be more useful, but it's also reliant on keeping an Exceeds material attached to it to keep its immunity from other card effects ability online. This card in and of itself sorts out a lot of the issues to do with the deck. It's integral you run at least a couple of copies of this to have that initial protection. This is another card that was also introduced in the Phantom Nightmare booster pack, so is the latest round of support. Raidraptor Fiend Eagle is a Dark Attribute Wing Beast Exceeds effect monster. It's a rank 3 with 1000 attack and 0 defense. It requires 2 level 3 Raidraptor monsters, and you can detach 1 Exceeds material from this card, then target 1 face-up special summon monster your opponent controls, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original attack on the field. You can only use this effect of Raidraptor Fiend Eagle once per turn. This is one of the 2 monsters within the Raidraptor's deck that I don't really rely upon. In terms of it being an Xyz monster, it is one that I don't ever fit within the extra deck of a Raidraptor deck, just because it's quite tight-fitting as it is, and to run all of the other copies, just even one of each of the other copies, there's no space for this card whatsoever. This does have a similar effect to one of the rank 5 Raidraptor monsters. However, the difference is this card is weaker. It only has 1000 attack. That card has 2000 attack and defense. This card also only inflicts damage to the opponent equal to its original attack on the field. It doesn't destroy it, whereas the rank 5 does. I'd rather run 2 of the rank 5 over this rank 3, especially since neither of the level 3 monsters I run within the deck either. Raidraptor Final Fortress Falcon is a Dark Attribute Wing Beast Exceeds rank 12 with 3800 attack and 2800 defense. It requires 3 level 12 monsters, and if this card has a Raidraptor Exceeds monster as material, it is unaffected by other card effects. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card, return all your banished Raidraptor monsters to your graveyard. Twice per turn, when this attacking card destroys a monster by battle, you can banish 1 Raidraptor Exceeds monster from your graveyard. This card can attack again in a row. The summon condition on this card is for most people would look really tricky, you know, bringing 3 level 12 monsters, what are you doing, how are you going to get there? That is not the strategy, that's not how you bring this card out. There are a couple of ways you can do it. The first is if you've got a rank 6 monster, there's 2 of them they've got. There's the Revolution Falcon and there's an alternative one which is similarly named Revolution Falcon. Both of those are rank 6. And there's the Double Down Force, which is the quick play Raidraptor's rank up magic card, where if your monster is destroyed by battle, you can flip that card over and then you just summon a monster equal to double its rank. That's how this card is coming out. There's another card which will be featured a bit later on, and it's part of the brand new support, which lets you combine different Xyz monsters together in order to reach this level. So, for example, you could take the level 4 and the level 8, you can take the level 5 and the level 7 to level 6s, and so on and so forth, and have those combinations to just bring this card out. The purpose of that is because the brand new Xyz monster is a rank 13 monster, and so if you don't have that combination of an alternative rank up card within this deck, there would be no possibility of you bringing that card out. This is the most powerful prior to that new card in terms of all the Xyz monster. It is a rank 12. We've got a rank, in terms of all the rank monsters that we have within Raidraptors, we've got rank 3, rank 4, rank 5, rank 6, rank 7, rank 8, no rank 9s, we've got 1 rank 10, no rank 11s, we've got this rank 12 and the brand new rank 13. This is the most powerful version. So long as this card has a Raidraptor Xyz material, it is unaffected by other card effects. So as I said before, you need to be careful to keep at least 1 Raidraptor Xyz monster on this card. Each turn, you can just attach a material to recover all of your banished Raidraptor monsters and put them back into the graveyard. And up to twice per turn, when this attacking card destroys a monster of battle, you can just banish a Raidraptor Xyz monster, and this card can attack once again in a row. It's a good way of closing out your opponent's life points if they don't have many of them, and this is usually the preference if you know it's going to be a shorter game. Raidraptor 4 Strix is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast Xyz effect monster. It's a rank 4 with 100 attack and 2000 defense. It requires 2 level 4 monsters and it gains 500 attack and defense for each Winged Beast monster you control, except this card. Once per turn, you can detach 1 material from this card to add 1 level 4 Dark Winged Beast monster from your deck to your hand. The summoning condition on this card isn't too difficult, as it just needs 2 level 4 monsters. The first part of the effect isn't really relied upon, even though it can be useful at points if you've got a massive field of Winged Beast monsters. So if you've got a few on them, it can become easily 2,000 or more attack points, but it tends to be in the rare exceptions that this happens. The ability to detach a material just to search for a level 4 Dark Winged Beast monster helps to add to the consistency of the deck, and a lot of the monsters that you'll be dealing with tend to be level 4, so you have lots of options to play with depending on your situation. This is one of the key cards that was introduced within the Raidraptor archetype, and it was kind of featured by Shay using it against, I think that was a Sora, who was the Fright for Fluffle user, but this was in the second duel he had with them, and unfortunately in that duel he actually lost the duel whilst this card was on the field. Raidraptor Fuzzy Lanius is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 4 with 500 attack and 1500 defense. If you control a Raidraptor monster other than Raidraptor Fuzzy Lanius, you can special summon this card from your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard, you can add 1 Raidraptor Fuzzy Lanius from your deck to your hand. You can only use each effect of Raidraptor Fuzzy Lanius once per turn. You cannot special summon monsters the turn you activate either of this card's effects except Raidraptor monsters. This card is useful for just its special summoning purposes. So long as you have another Raidraptor monster on the field, you can instantly special summon this card, and it can be used as part of a rank 4 Xyz play. Or it can be used as part of the link material for the link monster, the Y-Strix, and as soon as it's used in any way and it's sent to the graveyard, you can just search for another copy of itself It helps to reduce the impact of your deck for, any sort of blocking of your hand, as well as being able to just add to the consistency. It's very weak, but it's almost entirely used just for the purpose of getting a Xyz monster onto the field. Raidraptor Heel Eagle is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 3 with 700 attack and defense. If all monsters you control are Raidraptor monsters, minimum 1, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Raidraptor spell or trap card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use each effect of Raidraptor Heel Eagle once per turn. I would have to be honest, this is one of those Raidraptor monsters, because it's the level 3, I don't rely on it, I don't actually add it to the deck, as I don't see it as being that consistent. Whilst it can be special summoned, since it doesn't really match up to the levels of the other ones, it doesn't make sense to run it. With the exception of if this card happened to be in your graveyard, by banishing it, you can just recover a Raidraptor spell or trap card in the graveyard and bring that back to the hand. But overall, I'd rather add to consistency of the deck through other means than to run any copies of this card. Raidraptor Lastrix is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast effect monster. It's a level 1 with 100 attack and defense. If a Raidraptor monster you control battles while you have any spell or trap cards on your field or in your graveyard, during damage calculation in either player's turn, you can special summon this card from your hand. Then gain 100 life points for each spell or trap card you control and in your graveyard. You contribute this card, your opponent takes no battle damage this turn. Also, you can special summon one Raidraptor Xyz monster from your extra deck in defense position, but its effects are negated. Also, return it to the extra deck during the end phase. You can only use this effect of Raidraptor Lastrix once per turn. Now, a lot of people would be thinking, what's the point of bringing out this card, as it doesn't seem to work very well within the deck, but there are actually quite a few applications for this card. Firstly, okay, it is a level 1, and I think it's the only level 1 monster in their suite of monsters. The others are 3 or above. I think 3, 4, 5, 6 is the most, and then all the others have to be kind of searched upon for the Xyz summons. There is no level 2 version. This card happens to summon itself if a Raidraptor monster you control battles, so it can be either you battling with your Raidraptor or your opponent battling with your Raidraptor monster. So long as you've got spell or traps either on the field or in the graveyard, you can instantly special summon this card. The life point gain is a little bit strange because, as far as I remember, none of the other Raidraptor monsters interact with your life points in terms of boosting your life points. There's a few that do some sort of burn damage to your opponent's life points, and there's also one that kind of inflicts damage to you in order as a cost to bring itself out. So this is just quite a strange, unique interaction. And also the life point gain is highly unlikely to be more than maybe 500 life points, based on its design and the number of cards you'll have. When this card is on your field, this is the part of the effect that's really important. You can just tribute this card. Your opponent isn't going to take any battle damage, which is a little concerning, but it's a bit of a trade-off. But instead, you're able to just bring out a Raidraptor Xyz monster. It does have to come from the extra deck in defense position, so you can't use it during the turn. And its effects are negated, so you can't use it for that. And it returns to the extra deck. But why would you use it? Well, you've got the Raidraptor rank up magic cards. If you use any of those, you can use them to help bring out another Raidraptor monster, which happens to be, 1 or 2 levels higher than it. And in doing that, you can avoid the negative side of this card's effect. And because you've done it in this way, you haven't used a lot of your resources to bring those cards out, adding to your consistency, bringing out higher boss monsters at minimal cost to you. In a typical deck, I would be running probably 2 of these. Sometimes, on occasions, I have run 3 if I've really been kind of eager to kind of go into further plays. But ideally, you would look at about 2. Raidraptor Mimicry Lanius is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 4 with 1100 attack and 1900 defense. Once per turn during the main phase, if this card was normal or special summon this turn, you can increase the levels of all Raidraptor monsters you currently control by 1. During your main phase, if this card is in your graveyard because it was sent there this turn, You can banish this card, add one Raidraptor card from your deck to your hand, except Raidraptor Mimicry Lanius. You can only use this effect of Raidraptor Mimicry Lanius once per turn. This card is extremely useful, and I run 3 of these within most decks. It might look like a bit of a block and a bit difficult to kind of pull off, but it's actually one of the more consistent cards within the deck. Firstly, this has the ability to adapt and increase all of your Raidraptor monsters' levels by 1, potentially letting you go into either of the 2, now 3 rank 5 monsters very easily without any other cost to it. Bear in mind, if you do this, it is often more tricky to then kind of use some of those other cards' types of effects, but you're also able to, during the main phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there during a turn, just by banishing this card you can add a Raidraptor card from your deck to your hand, except another copy of itself. So this can be anything, any of their spell, traps, or monsters. Often in the past I will use this to kind of bring out the one which is the hand trap that destroys monsters your opponent controls when they attack into your Raidraptors, or I will search for one of the monsters that is able to special summon itself, such as the Fuzzy Lanius, as I mentioned previously, which helps you to then go into your further Xyz plays, or to go into your Wise Rips, which is the Link monster. All of these effects are pretty useful, and it just adds so much consistency. It would have to be run at least at 2 to get maximum benefit from this card's effects. I would say the one issue with this card is that if this card is sent to the graveyard during your opponent's turn, you won't have a chance to use its effect because it has to be during the turn it's sent to the graveyard. That includes your opponent's. It doesn't have it as a quick effect, and it's often better for this card to be detached from any of your Xyz monsters as material to trigger off its ability to search for a card, or to use it for some other effect to get it into the graveyard in the first place. Raidraptor Napalm Dragonius is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 4 with 1000 attack and defense. Once per turn you can inflict 600 damage to your opponent. Also you cannot activate monster effects for the rest of this turn except Raidraptor monsters. When this card is destroyed by battle and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon up one Raidraptor monster from your deck, but its effects are negated. This card I would consider running either 2 or 3 copies of, because not only does it have the ability to do some damage to the opponent, which helps to bring them closer to defeat, but if this card happens to be destroyed by battle, you can instantly just special summon a Raidraptor monster from the deck, and it doesn't matter that its effects are negated, you'll be using it as Xyz material. If you did this with the Mimicry Lanius, even though its effects on the field are negated, its effect in the graveyard to banish itself to search for another card is not negated. And this is one combo play you can rely upon. Even if you're not considering it that by that much, this is a monster that can float into itself to help protect your life points, or into other cards depending on your situation. Raidraptor Necrovulture is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 4 with 1000 attack and 1600 defense. Once per turn you contribute one Raidraptor monster, then target one rank up magic spell card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. Also you cannot Xyz summon for the rest of this turn except with the effect of a rank up magic spell card. This card is another example of one I don't actually run any of within the deck. There are so many Raidraptor monsters that are better than this that actually the limitations on it don't justify me running any copies. It's a shame, but it's not viable in my opinion. The ability of this card is just by attributing a Raidraptor monster, you can recover a rank up magic spell card. That's fine, but there are other cards that can do these types of effects much better. It also locks you from Xyz summoning for the rest of the turn, but by the effects of rank up magic spell cards. So if you don't have any pre-existing Xyz monsters on your field, there is nothing for you to rank up. You're locked out of Xyz summoning for the duration of that turn, and that can be devastating to face. Ill-advised, from my opinion, from running any copies of this. Raidraptor is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 4 with 1600 attack and 500 defense. During the main phase, if this card was normal or special summoned this turn, you can target one Raidraptor monster you control, add one Raidraptor monster with a different level than that monster from your deck to your hand, You can banish this card from your graveyard, increase or decrease the levels of all Raidraptor monsters you currently control by 1. You can only use each effect of Raidraptor Noir Lanius once per turn. This is another one of the cards that was introduced in the brand new Phantom of Nightmare pack, and you can understand the difference between some of the older cards and some of these newer cards, as these effects are just devastatingly good. The first ability of this card, it's during the main phase when this card is normal or special summoned, you can just look at a different Raidraptor monster you control, and you can just instantly search for a Raidraptor monster with a different level than that monster from the deck to the hand. Since these rely on levels 3, 4, 5, and 6 monsters, you're able to choose more consistently, but it does require you to run other level monsters to get the most of this card's effect. It's a shame it doesn't actually just mirror the level of that monster, a bit like the Buzzsaw Shark does for the Shark deck. And when this card is in the graveyard, you can banish this card just to increase or decrease the levels of all Raidraptor monsters by 1, the ones you control. This is perfect actually for going into the rank 3s if you want to, without having to run the level 3 monsters as an option. But more than likely you're going to want to go into the level 5s, so you can bring out the brand new Xyz monster, which is a rank 5, which helps to add to the consistency of that deck. This, even having 1,600 attack points, is quite useful, as it's among some of the strongest 3 or 4 within the level 4 monsters they have. Raidraptor Pain Lanius is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 1 with 100 attack and defense. It cannot be used as an Xyz material for an Xyz summon, except for the Xyz summon of a Winged Beast type monster. If this card is in your hand, you can target one Raidraptor monster you control that has a level. Take damage equal to its attack or defense, whichever is lower, but your choice if tied. And if you do, special summon this card. And if you do that, this card's level becomes the current level of the targeted monster. You can only use this effect of Raidraptor Pain Lanius once per turn. This card is another example of one which is meant to help special summon a Raidraptor monster. Whilst it's a level 1, it's not ignore the fact it's a level 1, it mirrors the level of the monster that you target through its effect. You do take damage equal to either its attack or defense, whichever is lower, so that's fine, but also that helps to trigger off another effect. There is another Raidraptor monster that is the previous one I mentioned that has the ability to special summon itself whenever you take any sort of burn effect damage. So you can potentially get a couple of cards out of your hand straight onto the field to increase your presence. And this helps to just go into your rank 4 Xyz plays more easily, or into other Xyz monsters. I'd say the only real downside is if this card happens to be negated from its ability whilst on the field, then its level goes back to 1, and it can therefore only really be used for a link play for the Y-Strix. Raidraptor Revolution Falcon is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast Xyz effect monster. It's a rank 6 with 2,000 attack and 3,000 defense. It requires 3 level 6 Winged Beast type monsters, and you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card. This turn, this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls, once each. At the start of the damage step, if this card battles an opponent's face-up special summon monster, that monster's attack and defense become 0. If this card has an Raidraptor Xyz monster as Xyz material, it gains this effect. Once per turn, you can target 1 monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to half the attack of that monster they had on the field. The summoning condition on this card isn't too difficult, as you won't be really summoning it normally. You'll be ranking it up with that double down force. You can use some of the other rank up cards to just bring this card out pretty quickly. And this is able to just detach a material to attack all of your opponent's monsters, so it can actually just wipe them out all out in the same turn. If your opponent has any special summon monsters, their attack and defense becomes zeroed out, and that means you can do the maximum amount of damage. And if your opponent has anything that's deemed as a threat, you can always use the final bit of its ability to target that opponent's monster, destroy it, and inflict half of its attack points to the opponent as damage. Bear in mind that the final bit of the ability doesn't require you to detach a material, and so it's a lot more easily and readily available for you to use each and every turn. Raidraptor Revolution Falcon Air Raid is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast Exceeds monster. It's a rank 6 with 2000 attack and 3000 defense. It requires 3 level 6 Winged Beast monsters, and you can also exceed some of this by discarding one rank up magic spell and using a rank 5 or lower Raidraptor Exceeds monster you control as material. Transfer its materials to this card. If this card is Exceed summoned, you can target one monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and if it was face up, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the attack it had on the field. If this card in your possession is destroyed by an opponent's card and sent to the graveyard, you can special summon one Raidraptor Revolution Falcon from your extra deck, and if you do, attach this card to it as material. This is another one of those cards that's pretty easy to summon, as you're just able to discard a rank up magic alongside a rank 5 or lower Raidraptor Exceeds monster. Those materials go back onto this card, and when it's summoned, you can just target an opponent's monster, destroy it, and inflict damage equal to the attack it had on the field, so long as that monster is face up. When this card leaves the field for whatever reason and is destroyed by an opponent's card, whether by battle or by card effect, you're able to bring out the original Raidraptor Revolution Falcon from the extra deck and just attach this card as material. It's just another way of bringing out the original Revolution Falcon, and even though this is technically the weaker one, as it can only use that part of its destruction effect once when it's summoned, it's a nice way of providing with additional opportunities to bring out other boss monsters. Raidraptor Rise Falcon is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast Exceeds effect monster. It's a rank 4 with 100 attack and 2000 defense. It requires 3 level 4 Winged Beast type monsters, and this card can attack all special summon monsters your opponent controls, once each. Once per turn, you can detach one Exceeds material from this card, then target one face-up special summon monster your opponent controls. This card gains attack equal to that monster's current attack. I think this card was the first one that we saw Shay use within the anime. It was kind of first shown in like the shadows and in the distance when it faced off against some of Jewel Academy's different competitors, some of their teachers and some of the lecturers, some of the kind of prestigious students as well. And it was also used in that first match against Sora when it was the Duelist Cup. It does require 3 level 4 Winged Beast monsters, so it is a bit more difficult than 4 Strix to be brought out, but it's pretty easy within the deck as they can special summon that level 4 monsters very quickly. This card is instantly able to just attack all special summon monsters the opponent controls, once each. And by detaching a material from this card, you can just take a face special monster and have this card gain attack points equal to its attack, which helps if your opponent's strongest attack monster happens to be special summoned, as you're guaranteed to do at least 100 points of damage to that opponent, as well as wipe out their entire field. Raidraptor Rising Rebellion Falcon is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast Exceeds effect monster. It's a rank 13 with 4000 attack and 3500 defense. It requires 5 level 13 Winged Beast monsters. The effect is it's unaffected by other card effects. If this card is Exceed summoned, you can destroy as many cards your opponent controls as possible. Then if this card has 3 or more Raidraptor Exceeds monsters with different names as material, inflict damage to your opponent equal to the combined original attack of the destroyed monsters. Once per turn, you can detach 3 materials from this card, then target one Raidraptor Exceeds monster in your graveyard. This card gains that monster's effects until the end phase. This is the final boss monster that they have. This is the highest level, highest rank of Exceeds monster they have. And it's part of that brand new support that I had previously mentioned with several of the other cards. It is a rank 13, which you don't really see in the... I think there was only a rank 13 within the anime, and that was this very special being that was in Yu-Gi-Oh! Zeal, and this was against Astral, and this was against Yuma. And it, for some reason, they could like rank up every 2 levels, and it just became really ridiculous about the level of power these monsters had. This is kind of alongside that kind of length of how ridiculous this power level is. It's unaffected by other card effects, and this is just a continuous ability of it. It's similar to Ultimate Falcon in it doesn't matter if it has materials or not, it just simply is as its effect. When this card is Exceed summoned, you're able to just destroy as many cards your opponent controls as possible. So it just wipes out your entire opponent's cards clean. If any of your opponent's cards are protected from destruction, that's the only way they're going to be prevented from being wiped out. Then if you have 3 or more raidraptor Exceeds monsters with different names, which the new rank up magic spell card will grant you the ability to do, you just inflict damage to your opponent equal to the combined original attack of those destroyed monsters. So the more monsters they have on the field, the higher the attack points of those monsters they have on the field, the more damage they will sustain. And once per turn, just by detaching 3 materials from this card, you're able to take a raidraptor Exceeds monster in your graveyard, and this card just copies that monster's effect. It's a devastating ability, as there are so many versatile types of effects that I've already mentioned. Some I haven't as of yet, but they're able to do a lot of damage through that. If this card is also summoned through the effect of that other Exceeds monster that was previously mentioned that has the part of the new support, this card would become a 5,300 attack monster just on its summon. Very difficult to get over anything like that outside of your opponent having decks that kind of boost themselves through equip cards. It's so amazing and so oppressive as a deck and as a concept, and you wait until the rest of the cards, it is just the best. When this comes out in Master Duel, I will be streaming so much of this content, just purely on Raidraptors. Raidraptor Rudder Strix is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 4 with 0 attack and 1,600 defense. If this card is special from the hand by the effect of a Raidraptor card or normal summoned, you can inflict 600 damage to your opponent. When an opponent's monster declares an attack that targets this card, you can special summon up to 2 Raidraptor monsters from your hand, and if you do, monsters your opponent controls cannot target those monsters for attacks this turn. This is another one of those monsters, because there are so many Raidraptor monsters, I don't always look to, say for example, bring out, because I don't think it's necessarily that easy to do so. If this card is special summoned from the hand by the effect of a Raidraptor card, or it's just normal summon, you can inflict 600 points of damage. This is really, really easy, but it also means that if an opponent's monster declares an attack that targets this card, you can instantly special summon 2 Raidraptor monsters from your hand, and it's not restrictive of any sort of level or class of it. This card is then immune to being attacked until all of the other Raidraptor monsters are kind of removed, but it's quite a clumsy type of effect, and it's reliant on your opponent not negating this effect. It's reliant on your opponent attacking into this card, and most of the time they're not going to be falling for these types of effects, as this card has to be face up to trigger off its effect. Raidraptor Satellite Cannon Falcon is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast rank 8 with 3,000 attack and 2,000 defense. It requires 2 level 8 Winged Beast monsters. If this card is Exceed summoned by using a Raidraptor monster as material, you can destroy all spell and trap cards your opponent controls. Your opponent can activate the cards or effects in response to this effect's activation. And as a quick effect, you can detach 1 material from this card, then target a 1 face-up monster your opponent controls. It loses 800 attack for each Raidraptor monster in your graveyard. The summon condition on this card isn't difficult, as you will be using the double force to either rank up the rank 4 to this, or you will be ranking it up using some of the other cards to bring it out. You don't actually use 2 level 8 monsters, as there aren't 2 level 8 monsters within the entire archetype. As soon as this card is summoned, you just wipe out all of your opponent's monsters, well, all of their spell and trap cards, and that's perfect, as your opponent cannot activate any cards in response to this card's effect. They are going to be dealt with like a Harpy Feathers Duster effect, but aren't able to do anything about it. The quick effect, just by detaching a card from this card, you can just choose a face-up monster your opponent controls. It loses 800 attack for each Raidraptor monster in your graveyard. Bear in mind, that's for each one in the graveyard. If you've got 3 or 4 already in there, then you're looking at 2,400, 3,200 points of reduction. Many monsters your opponent controls aren't going to be able to manage that. You can either really use it on your turn to trigger off its own effect and to just crash into your opponent's monsters, or if your opponent doesn't read into this card, you just trigger off this effect, they're most likely not going to be able to respond to this. Raidraptor Sharplanius is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 4 with 1700 attack and 1000 defense. Once per turn during your main phase, if this card was normal or special summoned this turn, you can target one face-up attack position monster on the field, change it to face-up defense position. During your main phase 2, if this card attacked this turn, you can target one Raidraptor monster in your graveyard. Special summon it, you can only use this effect of Raidraptor Sharplanius once per turn. This is one of the examples of the cards that are level 4 with decent attack points. When this card is on the field, you're able to just take a face-up attack position monster and change it to defense position monster. That's really useful if it's a way of getting over some of your opponent's monsters that have high attack but low defense. And if this card happens to have if it's happened to attack successfully and this card remains on the field, revive a Raidraptor monster in your graveyard and it gets special summoned. This has to be during main phase 2, so if you are going to go into an Xyz play, that will be in main phase 2 only, but it does provide some form of recovery. Raidraptor Singing Elanius is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 4 with 100 attack and 100 defense. If you control a face-up Xyz monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only special summon Raidraptor Singing Elanius once per turn this way. I would be honest with this card, I don't really use it within a Raidraptor deck, more so because even though it is a special summon target, there are plenty of other cards that do this job better. It is reliant on you having a face-up Xyz monster already on the field to be able to special summon it, and it doesn't exactly inspire much with 100 attack and defense. Whereas other cards will have alternative abilities and ways of making themselves useful. This almost seems like a vanilla monster that's just used for purely Xyz summoning with. Raidraptor Skull Eagle is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 3 with 1000 attack and 500 defense. If this card is detached from an Xyz material and sent to the graveyard to activate that monster's effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one Raidraptor card in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use this effect of Raidraptor's Skull Eagle once per turn. An Xyz monster that was summoned using this card on the field as Xyz material gains this effect. If it is Xyz summoned, it gains 300 attack points. This is the other level 3 monster that I don't use within the Raidraptor deck because there are so many monsters out there that are just better. The rank 3 that's used in comparison with this card is also not that useful, as it only does burn damage. It doesn't destroy any of your opponent's monsters, so unless you can build a pure burn style of deck, I would not advise running any of those types of cards. This card, when it's detached from an Xyz monster and sent to the graveyard to use its effect, by banishing this card you can just recover a Raidraptor card in your graveyard back to the hand. That's a decent form of recovery, but I'm sure there are other cards that you can use which are a lot faster. And it gives your Xyz monster that uses this card as material an extra 300 attack points. It's typically not enough to justify using this card. Raidraptor Stranger Falcon is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast Xyz monster. It's a rank 5 with 2000 attack and defense. It requires 2 level 5 monsters, and if this card has an Xyz monster as Xyz material, it gains this effect. Once per turn, you can detach one Xyz material from this card, then target one monster your opponent controls, destroy it, and if you do, inflict damage to your opponent equal to its original attack. If this card in your possession is destroyed by your opponent's card, either by battle or card effect, and sent to your graveyard, you can target one Raidraptor Xyz monster in your graveyard, except Raidraptor Stranger Falcon, special summon it, and if you do, attach this card to it as Xyz material. The summoning card of this card isn't difficult, as it just requires 2 level 5 monsters, but you're actually better off using the Raider's Knight, as it can do this effect and also help you to use its own ability of the Stranger Falcon, as that will become an Xyz material as an Xyz monster. This will make it able to destroy an opponent's monster and inflict points of damage to the opponent. This also has the ability to, when it's sent to the graveyard, recover a Raidraptor Xyz monster and use this card as a material. It's a great way of using and recycling the monsters and having the various abilities relied upon. Raidraptor Strangle Lanius is a dark attribute winged beast level 4 with 1600 attack and 1100 defense. If you control a dark monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn except dark monsters. If you control an Exceeds monster with a dark Exceeds monster as material, you can target one level 4 or lower Raidraptor monster in your graveyard, special summon it, but its effects are negated. You can only use each effect of Raidraptor Strangle Lanius once per turn. This is another example of a monster that's kind of one of the higher attack level 4 monsters they have. So long as you have a dark monster, it doesn't have to even be a Raidraptor monster, you can instantly just special summon this card from your hand. You are restricted from summoning monsters outside of dark attributes for the rest of the turn, but that's fine. And if you have an Exceeds monster already on your field that has a dark Exceeds monster as material, then you're able to instantly recover a level 4 or lower Raidraptor monster straight from the graveyard back onto the field. That can be used as part of a rank 4 Exceeds play. Raidraptor Tribute Lanius is a dark attribute winged beast level 4 with 1800 attack and 400 defense. During your main phase, if this card was normal or special summoned this turn, you can send one Raidraptor card from your deck to your hand. From the deck to the graveyard. During your main phase 2, if this card destroyed an opponent's monster by battle this turn, you can add one rank up magic or quick play spell from your deck to your hand. Also, you cannot special summon monsters for the rest of this turn, except Raidraptor monsters. You can only use each effect of Raidraptor Tribute Lanius once per turn. This is the strongest currently of the level 4 Raidraptor monsters at 1800 attack points, and as soon as it's summoned, you can send a Raidraptor monster from the deck to the graveyard. The purpose of this is if you use something like the Mimicry Lanius, then even with its own effect, it can search for another card by banishing itself, or you could use send the Fuzzy Lanius to the graveyard, in which when it's sent to the graveyard, it can actually bring out a copy of itself from the deck to your hand. It helps to add to summoning consistency within the hand, without having to run excessive cards outside of the archetype. When this card successfully destroys an opponent's monster by battle, you can then recover a rank up magic quick play spell from the deck to the hand. It's useful, but most likely you're not going to use it during the turn you activate this effect, unless you want to go into some of the higher rank monsters that are more likely to protect themselves. But it's definitely something I would be considering running either 2 or 3 copies of, just for consistency purposes. Raidraptor Ultimate Falcon is a dark attribute winged beast Exceeds monster. It's a rank 10 with 3500 attack and 2000 defense. It requires 3 level 10 winged beast monsters and it's unaffected by other card effects. You can detach one material from this card. For the rest of this turn, all the monsters your opponent controls lose 1000 attack. Also, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects. If this card has a Raidraptor monster as material, it gains this effect. Once per turn during the end phase, you can make all monsters on your opponent controls lose 1000 attack. Also, if your opponent controls no face-up monsters, inflict 1000 points of damage to the opponent. This is the third form of, as I was saying, the boss monsters. So you've seen the strongest one, you've seen the second strongest, and now this is the third one. It's easiest to be summoned either through the double rank up card, which can be used for a rank 5 to go into this rank 10. That as it doubles the level, or you can use the new card for that purpose of getting this to this card, or the final option is there is a rank up quick play spell that can actually, by banishing the number of Raidraptor monsters you already have alongside the Raidraptor Exceeds monster you have on the field, bring out a monster equivalent to that rank total. So if you had a 4 Strix on the field, for example, which is a rank 4, by banishing 6 of the Raidraptor monsters you have in the graveyard alongside that card, that's 4 plus 6 equals rank 10. That's how you bring this out. It's unaffected by other card effects, and it's not conditional, it just straight is. It doesn't matter if it has materials or not. And by detaching a material from this card, all monsters your opponent controls lose 1000 attack points, and they cannot activate cards or effects. It's a decent ability, but I'd actually rather have the material kept on this card, because that way so long as you've got a raidraptor as material, each and every turn, your opponent's monsters are going to lose 1,000 attack points consistently regardless. And if they keep all their monsters face down, or they choose not to summon in that turn, they're punished by taking an extra 1,000 points of damage. So it doesn't work for them to keep nothing on their field. Raidraptor Vanishing Lanius is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 4 with 1,300 attack and 1,600 defense. Once per turn during a main phase, if this card was normal or special this turn, you can special summon one level 4 or lower Raidraptor monster from your hand. This card lets monsters that typically can't be special summoned get the ability to be special summoned, enabling you to go into your rank 4 Exceeds plays very quickly, and to even go into the Rise Falcon, which requires the 3 level 4 materials. Raidraptor Wild Vulture is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast level 6 with 1,600 attack and 2,000 defense. During a main phase, if this card was normal or special summon this turn, you can tribute this card to special summon 2 Raidraptor monsters from your hand and or graveyard, whose total levels equal 6. I don't like running this card, and honestly it's not one that I have ever considered running. There is so little slot space for Raidraptor monsters that this is one that is often forgotten about, and I've never actually run it in a deck of any kind. It does have the ability to bring out monsters by tributing itself for a total of a level 6, but they're going to be of different levels unless you're bringing out 2 level 3 monsters. That means unless one of them can adjust a level to go into the other card's level, which I don't think any of them actually mirror levels, it's going to be extremely difficult for you to get anything useful from this effect. Also, considering it's a level 6 and only has 1,600 attack points, you have level 4 monsters in its own archetype that can actually beat it in battle. And even its defense points for a level 6 are disappointing at 2,000. Raidraptor Y-Strix is a Dark Attribute Winged Beast Link 2 monster with 1,400 attack. It requires 2 Dark Winged Beast monsters. If this card is link summoned, you can special summon 1 level 4 Dark Winged Beast monster from your deck in defense position, but negate its effects. Also, it cannot be used as link material. If your Raidraptor Exceeds monster's effect is activated, set 1 rank up magic spell from your deck, and if it is a quick play spell, it can be activated this turn. You can only use each effect of Raidraptor Y-Strix once per turn. The design on this card is so that you can search out for your various rank up magic spell cards instantly from the deck straight onto the field, and then hopefully be able to activate them. It just needs 2 Dark Winged Beast monsters, which happens to be the entire lineup of all Raidraptor monsters, so it doesn't matter if you're using the level 1 or the level 6, they all count the same. When this card is link summoned, you're instantly able to bring out a level 4 Dark Winged Beast monster from the deck in defense position. It does have its effects negated, but if you bring out the Mimicry Lanius, the one that can banish itself to search for another monster from your deck to your hand, that effect can't be really negated from the graveyard, and therefore actually going into an Exceeds play using that card is useful. When an Raidraptor's Exceeds monster's effect is activated, so long as you've made this card beforehand, because this has to kind of be witness to that effect before it activates, then you get that reward of searching for the rank up card, and it's pretty easy to trigger off this effect. Raider's Unbreakable Mind is a continuous trap card. The effect is this card is always treated as a Phantom Knights and Raidraptor card. If you see someone using a Dark Exceeds monster as material, you can target 1 card on the field to destroy it. If this face-up card in the spell and trap zone is destroyed by a card effect, you can set 1 rank up magic spell directly from your deck or graveyard. You can only use each effect of Raider's Unbreakable Mind once per turn. Honestly, I don't actually use this card within the deck. There is so little space, I don't ever justify using it. I can understand that if you exceed someone using a Dark Exceeds monster as a material, as is shown here, then you are able to just wipe out a card, be that a spell, a trap, or a monster. But you're going to have to be running a very specific style of this Raidraptor deck that is effectively relying on constantly ranking up. If this card is destroyed by a card effect, so that's anything, it can be yours or your opponent using a destruction-based effect on this card. You can set a rank up magic spell directly from your deck or graveyard, which is fine, but there are other cards that can do this more consistently without being reliant on it. Raidraptor Call is a normal spell card. Target one Raidraptor monster you control, special summon one monster with the same name as that monster on the field from your hand or deck in defense position. You can only activate one Raidraptor Call per turn. You cannot special summon monsters during the turn you activate this card, except Raidraptor monsters. This card is useful for bringing out other Raidraptor monsters. It does have to be the same name, so you need multiple copies of that card somewhere within the deck, and to have hoped to have not drawn into multiple in your hand and not to have bricked. But saying that, if you can manage this effectively, not only does it stop you from hopefully bricking in the future by drawing another copy of itself, but it means you can go into more variety of Xyz plays without wasting, say for example, additional summon ring requirements. Raidraptor Glorious Bright is a normal trap card. The effect is if you control a Raidraptor monster, target one face-up monster your opponent controls, or if you control a Raidraptor Xyz monster, you can target one face-up card your opponent controls, negate that card's effects until the end of the turn. You can banish this card from your graveyard, then target one of your Raidraptor monsters that is banished or in your graveyard, add it to your hand. You can only use one Raidraptor Glorious Bright effect per turn and only once that turn. This is one of the last forms of support that they have received, and it came out of Phantom of Nightmare. The ability, so long as you've got a Raidraptor monster, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls, and it gets negated. Or if you've got the Raidraptor Xyz monster, it can negate any card that your opponent has on the field until the end of the turn, so you can get rid of any destructive plays your opponent has. By banishing this card from the graveyard, you can just take one of your Raidraptor monsters that is banished or in the graveyard and recover it back to the hand so it can be reused later within your next turn. Raidraptor Nest is a continuous spell card. If you control two or more Raidraptor monsters, you can add one Raidraptor monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. You can only use this effect of Raidraptor monster nest once per turn. This is quite a useful card, so long as you've got two or more Raidraptor monsters, you're consistently, each and every turn, being able to either recover from the graveyard to the hand, or search from the deck to the hand, and that adds to bringing out what you need. I don't typically run too many copies of this card, maybe one copy of it, just so it doesn't brick, and there are other cards that do this more reliably without you having to have so many cards on the field and meeting these conditions. Raidraptor Readiness is a normal trap card. The effect is, this turn, Raidraptor monsters you control cannot be destroyed by battle. If you have a Raidraptor monster in your graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard and you take no damage this turn. This card is useful to protect your Raidraptor monsters for the turn from being destroyed by battle. It's great as a way of protecting those if you can't get your Xyz monsters out that turn and maybe need another turn. It also means that your opponent can't just OTK you, as you can banish this card on the very same turn to zero any damage you would take from battle effects. Raidraptor Return is a normal trap card. If a Raidraptor monster you control is destroyed by battle, target one Raidraptor monster in your graveyard, add it to your hand. If a face-up Raidraptor monster you control is destroyed by a card effect, you can banish this card from your graveyard and add one Raidraptor card from your deck to your hand. You can only use this effect of Raidraptor Return once per turn. This card, it's useful in certain ways as it lets you search for a Raidraptor monster from the graveyard back to the hand, but it is reliant on another Raidraptor monster you have being destroyed by that battle. If a face-up Raidraptor monster you control is destroyed by a card effect, you can just banish this card to search for a Raidraptor card from your deck to your hand, but that's also reliant on whatever your opponent is doing, and I never like playing that type of strategy. Raidraptor Roost is a continuous spell card. If a Raidraptor monster is special summoned from the extra deck to your field, except during a damage step, you can add one Raidraptor spell or trap card from your deck to your hand, except Raidraptor Roost. You can target three of your Raidraptor monsters that are banished and or in your graveyard, place them on the bottom of your deck in any order, then draw one card. You can only use each effect of Raidraptor Roost once per turn. This is part of the Phantom of Nightmare new support. Like all the brand new support that they've got, I think there was like 6 cards they received. 3 or 4 monsters, I think there was 1 trap and 1 spell card. And this being the spell card, it The raidraptors go through a lot of the resources, so this helps you in a couple of ways. By a monster being special summoned from the extra deck, you're instantly able to search for a raidraptor spell or trap card from the deck to the hand, and so long as you've got 3 of your raidraptor monsters that are banished or in the graveyard, you can recover those to the bottom of the deck. Yes, it's going to be more difficult for you to search for those cards, and you then exchange to draw an additional card, but there are cards within the deck that let you search for these or to at least shuffle your deck, so it's guaranteed for those cards not to remain constantly on the bottom. Raidraptor Replica is a normal trap card. Its effect is to target one Raidraptor monster you control, special summon one monster with the same name from your deck, and if you do, as long as you control the face-up special summon monster, monsters your opponent controls cannot target the target monsters for attacks. Also, your opponent cannot target the targeted monsters with card effects. This lets you instantly bring out another version of the same monster onto the field. It protects it from being targeted by card effects or by attacks, and lets you go into your Xyz plays. As you can see, this is showing you the Singing Lanius, which is probably the best example, as it only has 100 attack and defense. By not allowing your opponent's monsters to target these monsters, it gives you more kind of space and freedom to decide how you're going to go into your further combos. Raidraptor's Phantom Knight's Claw is a counter trap. When a monster effect is activated, detach one material from your Dark Xyz monster, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then if you detached a material that was the Phantom Knight's Raidraptor or Xyz Dragon card, one Raidraptor Xyz monster you control gains attack equal to that destroyed monster's original attack. You can only activate one Raidraptor's Phantom Knight's Claw per turn. This is their counter trap in order to deal with any of your opponent's monster effects. It does have the ability to negate and destroy those cards, and you get a benefit if you happen to have detached an Xyz based card from that, as it then gets the attack points added onto the total, and these attack points stay with that monster. They don't just end at the end phase of the next turn. Rise Rank Up Magic Raptor's Force is a quick play spell card. During the main phase of your opponent's battle phase, target 2 or more Raidraptor Xyz monsters you control and or in your graveyard, including a monster on the field. If at least 2 remain face up at resolution, special summon one Raidraptor Xyz monster from your extra deck with a rank equal to the combined ranks, and if you do, attach the targeted monsters to it as material. This is treated as an Xyz summon. Transfer their materials to the summon monster. You can only activate Rise Rank Up Magic Raidraptor's Force per turn. So this is the example I've mentioned in the past, where this is the brand new Rank Up Magic card they've got, and lets you go into the rank 13 Xyz monster, which you can see in the image of the spell card. The effect can be activated either during the main phase or the opponent's battle phase, so it can be either during your turn or when the opponent is going into their attack. You have to target 2 or more Raidraptor Xyz monsters that you control and or in the graveyard, but one of them has to be on the field to activate this. And you can go straight into Raidraptor Xyz monster with a rank equal to their combined ranks, so you have to be careful about the monsters you choose to target with this effect. Those monsters then become the Xyz material for that specific monster, and it's treated as an Xyz summon. This card is limited to only being activated once per turn, but when it's used, you're not going to need to be using multiple of these, otherwise that'd be too much. It's definitely one of the most impressive rank up cards I can consider, and for this deck it's very consistent to add to what they need. Phantom Knight's Rank Up Magic Force is a quick play spell card. During the main phase, banish 1 or more dark monsters from your graveyard, then target 1 dark Xyz monster you control. Special summon from your extra deck 1 the Phantom Knight's Raidraptor or Xyz Dragon Xyz monster, whose rank equals that of the targeted monster you control, plus the number of monsters banished by using it as material. Also, for the rest of this turn, after this resolves, you cannot special summon monsters from the extra deck except Xyz monsters. This is treated as an Xyz summon and transfer its materials to the summon monster. You can only activate 1 Phantom Knight's Rank Up Magic Force per turn. This is the card I've mentioned which has the ability to let your raidraptor monsters kind of skip their levels, jump their levels based on the number of raidraptor monsters you have in your graveyard. By simply banishing them, you're no longer restricted to just using the Doom Double Force in order to double up the ranks of the monsters, as that's also reliant on those cards being destroyed in battle. This just lets you do it as and when you want. You can do it on your turn or your opponent's. Rank Up Magic Doom Double Force is a quick play spell card. The effect is target one Raidraptor Exceeds monster in your graveyard that was destroyed by battle and sent there this turn. Special summon it. Then special summon from your deck one Exceeds monster that has twice the rank of that monster by using it as the Exceeds material. This special summon is treated as an Exceeds summon. This card, prior to the last two cards being mentioned, has been the only way to get to some of the highest rank Exceeds monsters by targeting either the rank 5 or the rank 6 with this effect. But it is so reliant on your opponent destroying this Raidraptor Exceeds monster you have by battle, or you crashing into your opponent's monster, they're most likely not going to allow that to happen. This also has to trigger off its effect, and if this effect gets negated by any means, then you've wasted all those resources just to try and bring out either the rank 10 or the rank 12. Rank Up Magic Raid Force is a normal spell card. The effect is to target one face-up Exceeds monster you control, special summon from your edge deck one Raidraptor monster that is one rank higher than that target by using that target as the Exceeds material. This special summon is treated as an Exceeds. Exceeds materials attached to that target also become Exceeds materials on the summon monster. You can banish this card from your graveyard, add one Raidraptor card from your hand, then target one rank magic spell card in your graveyard, accept Rank Up Magic Raid Force, and add it to your hand. This is able to just instantly rank up one of your Exceeds monsters by one rank. So if you've got a rank 4, that goes to rank 5 to rank 6 to rank 7, rank 7 to rank 8. However, after rank 8, you can't actually rank those up by one level, and therefore this is where the effect stops with the Satellite Cannon, which is the rank 8 Exceeds monster. It also has the benefit of just banishing itself and a Raidraptor card from the hand. You're able to take another Rank Up Magic spell card from your graveyard, accept a copy of itself, and return that straight to the hand, so hopefully you can then Exceed summon into another monster. Rank Up Magic Raptor's Force is a quick play spell card. The effect is if a Raidraptor Exceeds monster was destroyed and sent to the graveyard this turn, while you controlled it, target one Raidraptor Exceeds monster in your graveyard, special summon it, then special summon from your etch deck one Raidraptor monster that is one rank higher than that monster by using it as the Exceeds material. This special summon is treated as an Exceeds summon. The design on this card is so that when a Raidraptor Exceeds monster you already have is destroyed by any means, it doesn't have to be purely by battle like the Doom Double Force, it can actually also be by card effect. You can just take that Raidraptor Exceeds monster, special summon it, and then rank it up once. So this applies all the way up to the rank 7 to go up to the rank 8 with that effect. It is still quite limiting, and this really has to be set on your field. Otherwise, you are going to have this monster hopefully crash into something to trigger off this effect. Rank Up Magic Revolution Force is a quick play spell card. The effect is during your turn, target one Raidraptor Exceeds monster you control, special summon from your etch deck one Raidraptor monster that is one rank higher than that target by using that target as the Exceeds material. During your opponent's turn, you can target one Exceeds monster your opponent controls with no Exceeds materials, take control of that Exceeds monster, then special summon from your etch deck one Raidraptor monster that is one rank higher than that monster by using it as the Exceeds material. These special summons are treated as Exceeds summons. Attached Exceeds materials also become Exceeds materials on the summon monster. This card is also a quick play spell. During your turn, you're just able to take a Raidraptor Exceeds monster you have, special summon from your etch deck one Raidraptor monster that is a rank higher, so everything up to the rank 7 going into the rank 8 is acceptable, anything above that can't be done. The ability that happens during your opponent's turn is to just take an Exceeds monster your opponent controls. Bear in mind it has to have no materials, so otherwise it cannot affect by this effect. You take that monster and you get to rank it up by once by treating it as the requirement for the effect. It's very rare to get that secondary ability off, and I think it was used within the anime in the first duel between Sora and Shay. That was the duel where they fight for Bear had stolen his raidraptor monster, and then he just used this card and just took it and then ranked it up to the rank 6 version. Rank Up Magic Skip Force is a normal spell card. Target one raidraptor exceeds monster you control, special summon from the extra deck one raidraptor monster that is 2 ranks higher than that target by using that target as material. This is treated as an Exceed summon. Transfer its materials to the summon monster. During the main phase, except the turn this card was sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card and one Raidraptor monster from your graveyard, then target one Raidraptor Exceeds monster in your graveyard, special summon it. This is better than quite a few of the other Raidraptor cards, as this is less limiting. All of the Raidraptor monsters are able to access through this card. Even the rank 10 and the rank 12 can be brought out partially through this effect. It uses 2 rank ups rather than the 1, so that's always a better one, as consistently the higher the rank of the monster with the Raidraptors, the stronger the card becomes. And during the main phase, you can just banish this card and one Raidraptor monster and just take a Raidraptor Exceeds monster in the graveyard and special summon it. So if you can then rank that card up with another rank up spell card, you could potentially have 2 Exceeds monsters on your field. Rank Up Magic Soul Show Force is a normal spell card. The effect is to pay half your life points, then target one Raidraptor Exceeds monster in your graveyard. Special summon it, then special summon that from your extra deck, one Exceeds monster that is 2 ranks higher than that monster by using it as the Exceeds material. This special summon is treated as an Exceeds summon. This card is useful typically the longer a duel has been going on for, as you'll have multiple Exceeds Raidraptor monsters in your graveyard to choose from, and be able to pretty much go into any of your Raidraptor monsters. It does cost you half your life points, but if you're in a spot and you kind of have low life points, then actually losing half isn't going to be quite as devastating as if you lost like 4,000 life points at the start of the duel using this effect. Raptor's Gust is a counter trap card. The effect is when a spell or trap card is activated while you control a Raidraptor card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. This is one of the archetypes counter trap cards. The other one affects monster cards. This one goes after spell and trap cards. So long as you've got a Raidraptor monster on the field. There are other archetype cards that have these counter traps aligned with them, and so it's nothing different to what's already anticipated and expected within decks. Raptor's Ultimate Mace is an equipped spell card. Equipped only to a Raidraptor monster, it gains 1000 attack. When the equipped monster is targeted for an attack by a monster whose attack is higher than the equipped monster, you can add a 1 rank up magic spell card from your deck to your hand, and if you do, you take no battle damage from that battle. This is the only equipped card that the Raidraptors have. It's part of the archetype. I think it's part of the new support. They should have gotten maybe another couple of equipped spells, maybe one which allows your highest rank monsters that are unaffected by cards just to be affected by maybe that card. As it is, the up to the rank 8 can be equipped with this card, making that a 4000 attack monster, which isn't bad. If your opponent threatens your monster by attacking into it with a higher attacking monster, which they will most likely do, you can just search for a rank up magic spell card from your deck to hand, and you also take no damage from that battle. That was the entire breakdown of the full list of Raidraptor archetype cards we have currently in the game. Hopefully in the future they'll consider running some more, but as we've seen, as they've gotten a new support, they have become a lot better. And I can't wait for the day that the newest cards, the newest 6 cards, get put into Yu-Gi-Oh! Master Duel. I'll definitely be streaming those, and those will be coming up onto the channel as and when they get ready. If you like this video, please make sure to like and subscribe. It really helps support the channel. And if you can share it as well, that would also be great. Until next time, goodbye.